Alright, so it's time for another tool haul, so let's just jump right in it. We're going to start small with some sockets. Here I have the Steelman Pro. It's a double-sided socket. Now I have an extension on here, and it does not come with an extension when you buy it. When using sockets like this, you want to use the shortest extension possible so you don't lose too much torque from your impact gun. But let's see, what's the part number on this one? It is a 60187, and if you look up closely here, you can see it says 21.5 and 22.5. You know, the little cap that's on the lug nut, when they come off, all of a sudden the lug nut is a smaller size. So if you try to use a standard 22mm, you may end up rounding off that lug nut and open up a can of worms, right? So that's where you would use the 21.5. And then on the other end, you have 22.5. So basically it's the same thing, but the other way around. When the cap is still on the lug nut, but they're swollen, I'm sure we've all seen that, where you almost can't get your socket on there, or your socket doesn't want to come off after you remove it. So that's where you use one that's slightly larger, because if you were to try to use a, let's just say a 23mm socket, again, that may end up rounding off the socket. The half size increments really come into play here, and sometimes it could be a lifesaver. And in a perfect world, every car you work on would get brand new lug nuts whenever they're missing the caps or they're swollen, right? But that's just not the case. People just don't spend money on that type of stuff, but at least not typically. So yeah, it's a pretty neat little socket to have on hand. Alright, so next up I have a SnapOn socket. I normally don't buy SnapOn things, but when they're making specialty tools and you got no other choice, what are you gonna do, right? So the part number for this one is going to be BTCS1, and it's a specific tool for Subaru caliper bolts. And the reason why it's designed like this, let me get a close-up for you guys. You can see it's long shank. That's a 17mm on that end. And the reason why it's designed like this is to clear the strut bolts on the knuckle, so you could get to the back of the caliper and remove the caliper fast when you have to change rotors or whatever, you know, wheel bearing. So yeah, from what I hear, it also works on some Hyundais and Kias. And to be honest, I really don't work on too many Subarus here. The few years I've been working from my garage, I think I've had a max of 2 Subarus, honestly. So I've had this tool for a few months, and honestly, it's just been an expensive paperweight. If I go ahead and show you the tool right here on SnapOn's website, you can see it costs just about $53, and that is before shipping and taxes. When it's all said and done, this is closer to about a $75 socket. So yeah, it's just one of those tools, again, that I bought it because it'll be nice to have when I come across that situation. But I haven't really come across it. Like I said, I don't work on too many Subarus, and the few Hyundais that I've tried it on really hasn't worked for those Hyundais or Kias. Alright, next up we have some studs to remove and install wheels on European cars, because you know they don't have studs coming out of them that hold the wheel. They have bolts holding down the wheels. So all you have to do is remove one of the bolts, and you thread this in its place, and it allows you to remove and install the wheel a little bit easier. The reason why there's 2 of them is because there's just 2 different thread pitches. This was actually a gift from a friend, so I'll see if I could find some links, and they actually work really well. They're super simple, but they get the job done. And it's more of like a convenience factor when it comes down to a tool like this, but I think they're pretty cool. Next up we have a Lio socket 77080. So there it goes right there, and the fact that it's still in the box kind of tells you something. I guess it's a common thing in this video of new tools that aren't really getting used, so that's not good, right? It is what it is. That's just part of having and buying tools. You don't always need them. But I mean, first thing that catches your attention is look at the girthiness, look at the thickness of this boy. Yeah, this is a very heavy socket. It has a lot of mass, and that's the whole idea behind it, is to remove really high torque fasteners, specifically 19mm. That's what its one job is. So for example, the main reason why I bought this is for Honda crank bolts. I was going to be doing a timing belt, and I thought, you know, it's good to have just in case I need it. And thankfully I haven't needed it just yet, because I have my Milwaukee high torque impact gun, and that gets off pretty much everything. But in any other case, like say all I had was my mid torque gun, which doesn't always remove everything you're trying to get off, this could really come in hand then. But it's still a nice tool to have, and really there isn't much else to say about it. It really is a special socket. So next up we have some Irwin tools, and part number on this 3095001. So basically allows you to hold taps in kind of what's like a socket. You can see these are 3/8 drive, and then this end you can see I already have a tap in this end, and basically this collar rotates and it releases the tap, and you go ahead and lock it down, kind of like a Jacob's chuck, you know, same concept. And I think it's super neat, you know, like say if you're trying to tap some threads or clean out some threads, and you know how you usually got like that T handle, well sometimes there isn't always space to have that large T handle for you to turn for a tap. So that's where you just grab your ratchet, you put it on this end, and you just ratchet in the tap to go ahead and clean out the threads or make threads. So it's a super neat tool, and I've used it a few times already, and it's absolutely fantastic. It works just fine. I haven't had any issues with it. And if you're wondering why there's 2 pieces in the box, it's because they just basically hold different size taps. So this is going to hold a larger tap than this one can. So, but they're pretty much same exact idea. And once I started using them, it's like, why didn't I buy them sooner? So that's pretty much it for this. Next up, I have some AN wrenches. These are made out of aluminum or aluminium for some of you people. And these aren't really for working on customers' cars. This is just for my CRX build when I get around to putting the engine in. Who knows when that's going to happen? Maybe 30 years from now. I don't freaking know. But that's the point. If you plan on using AN fittings, you don't want to damage those nice fittings. So you use wrenches like this that are made out of aluminum, and they won't scratch up your nice fittings. And you know, I don't have too much experience with these, and so there isn't much I could say about them, but they look like they're nicely built and finished. Everything looks really good. Now these are metric. You could get them in standard as well if you wanted, and I believe I got these off of Summit Racing. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's where they came from. Next up, we have a 20-piece wire cleaning and decarbon kit from Carlisle, and the part number on this is going to be CZWCK20. Hopefully you can see that. And here's the kit right here. Now I've had this for a little time now. I've been using it. You can see it comes like with a screwdriver handle if you wanted to do that, with an extension, and you have your brass brushes, nylon, and then steel right here. Now these are the main ones I use. You can see I'm even missing one right there because I broke it. The reason why I got them like this with this end, the hex end on them, is because they go right into my Milwaukee bit driver, like the impact gun, and yeah, it's super easy to use. And the main reason I pulled this kit out for it is, you know, on brake calipers where the slide pins go, where you pull out the slide pins and you go in there with a wire brush like this on the drill, and it really cleans out that bore of where the slide pin goes to get any corrosion that's inside of there, and it does a fantastic job at cleaning it. One thing I noticed is, and that's how I broke this one right here, don't grab a size that like fits in there very snug, because with the impacting action it's just gonna snap it off right here, and that's what happened to me. So you always want to use a size that's very loose inside of the bore and just kind of work it around like this, you know what I'm saying, to clean out that bore, rather than something that's like this and you're in here trying to force it in, because all the impacting is just going to snap it off. So I hope all of that makes sense. Now this is a pretty inexpensive kit, so once it wears out, and it is inevitable, this is a throwaway item eventually because of wear and tear, just go out and buy another kit, and that's about it. But it's been super useful, and it just speeds up the process of doing brake jobs as far as I'm concerned. Next up, I have a pneumatic fan clutch wrench set. It's an 8-piece. This is going to be the 4-3 300. This specific kit comes in a small bag like this. Now, I first saw this tool when I worked in the body shop a few years ago, and they had like a Snap-on equivalent to this, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever since sliced bread, because I seen how fast it could remove fan clutches off of cars that use that type of system. You know, I remember looking into this similar kit years ago, and it was just way out of my budget. It was just way too expensive at the time. But like anything else, over time, when it comes down to tools, it's going to be reproduced in China for a lot less money, right? And that's pretty much what this is. So you have your end right here that would go right onto your air hammer. And this end, you can see it has a very specific end on it. It's going to lock in to one of these adapters. So let's just say you put this on your fan clutch, and then you come in here like that. It's going to hook in. And then you hit it with your air hammer, right? And it knocks free those fan clutches that could sometimes be under very tight. And this thing, honestly guys, it works really, really well. Sometimes it makes the difference of getting that fan off in, you know, 2 or 3 minutes versus messing with it for 30 minutes. Before, whenever I had these fan clutches, it's like, oh man, like how bad is it gonna be? Because sometimes it could be a nightmare, sometimes it could be a walk in the park without having this tool. But ever since I got this one, don't even worry about it, because I know that clutch is going to come off every single time using this tool. Alright, so next up we have some screwdriver sets. So let's start off with the longer one. So this is going to be the Carlisle or Napa SDSC4. And this is a extra long flathead screwdriver set. Now the picture was kind of deceiving online. I did not know they were going to be this long. So when they came in, I was like, whoa, what the hell is this? But I mean, it seems a little crazy, but they actually are useful, and they will come in hand, trust me. So here they are, extra long, and this whole set is all flatheads. So you can see the finish on the end is very nice, and they are all magnetized. So everything looks really good here, okay? And one thing I really like about Napa, and it's why I buy these Carlisle screwdrivers, is the handle. I absolutely love this handle. It just feels really good in the hand. It's kind of like the Snap-on handle. I can't decide which one I like more, but I can tell you one thing, I definitely like the price on these better. So for the price, you cannot go wrong with these screwdrivers from Carlisle. They are absolutely fantastic. They just feel quality. You know when you pick up a cheap like Chinese screwdriver and it just like has no weight to it? These feel nice and solid, guys. So I mean, the handle is what sells me every time. I have a few other Carlisle screwdrivers and I absolutely love them. And I like these so much that this is actually how I leave them in my toolbox with this case. It's not because they're brand new or anything like that, because they're not. I've had them for some time. I just leave them in my toolbox like this. And I find myself that whenever I'm going to grab one of these screwdrivers, yeah, they're a little bit dirty. But when I'm going to grab them, I tend to like take off my dirty gloves, or I put on a fresh set of gloves that are clean, just so that I don't damage the finish or make them any dirtier than they already are, because I like them. It's just one of those things that, you know, when you like something, you tend to take care of it a little bit more than your other tools, and that's definitely the case going on here. So it's a 4-piece set, and here goes your smallest screwdriver in the kit compared to the one I pulled out first, which is the longest. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the other one. I mean, they're just screwdriver, guys, right? How much can I really talk about these? So here is the SDS8, and it's a combination set. So this one is going to be Phillips as well as flathead. Go ahead and flip this over. So here was the smallest Phillips compared to the largest. You could see the size difference. And the one thing I noticed about these when I first got them is they also have like this hex shape right there, right at the base, so you could get like a crescent wrench on here and really hold it to get leverage, or just add extra torque to the fastener. And again, the tips are magnetized and everything looks absolutely fantastic. And again, I mean, the screwdriver in the hand just feels absolutely fantastic. Like if you blindfolded me and put this thing in my hand, it's comparable to like holding a Snap-on tool. It just feels like a quality tool, you know what I mean? But at way less of a price. I really love these things, guys. They are good, fantastic screwdrivers, and I encourage you to go ahead and check them out if you're looking for a decent quality set that doesn't break the bank. So here was our largest flathead, and this thing is just a monster. Anyway, let me stop talking about screwdrivers. Let's go ahead and move on. Alright, so we have two impact guns from Astro Pneumatic, and I've used a few of their tools and they absolutely hold up. They have fantastic prices and the tools are just sturdy. They hold up. They are just quality stuff, guys. So let's start with the first one. This was my very first impact gun, pneumatic impact gun that I ever bought, because before that I've always used electric. So it was kind of hard to take the leap into pneumatic because you gotta buy a compressor, the guns, the lines, and all that stuff, right? Anyway, so the first one, the Nano, is going to be the 1822, and it is a stubby impact gun. You can see I have little Mickey Mouse hands, and yet it still looks relatively small in my hand. And yeah, I love this thing because you could fit it in places where you weren't gonna fit other impact guns. Like, for example, these are all 1/2-inch drive, okay? And this before was my smallest 1/2-inch drive impact gun. And you could see the big size difference. See that? So you could already see how you're going to be able to get this gun in areas where you can't get this one in. And sure, the Milwaukee has more power than this one does, but that's not always the case. You don't always need that much power. Sometimes you just need to be able to get a impact gun in a tight area, and that's all it really comes down to. So after using this one for a few months, I was like, you know what, I saw this one in Astro's lineup and I was sold on it. So just put that one aside. As far as length, like this, it's only about 1/2 inch shorter, so it is slightly shorter than a Nano, but not by much. But still, every little piece counts, right, when you're trying to save space. The main seller on this one, which by the way is the 1834, is the flex head. You can see it flexes in any direction that you want it to, forward or backwards if you wanted to, and it's really going to help you get into those tight areas. And it's absolutely crazy to think that something like this exists, but it does. And then something I found out after buying the tool is that this thing actually turns. So like, say you're using the tool like this, right? And let's just say this right here where the trigger's at is hitting something and it's not ideal for your hands. Well, all you have to do is rotate it until it is convenient for you. So you can see the benefits of a tool like this as far as trying to get it into tight areas. Now sure, again, it doesn't have a ton of power, but when you're working with limited space like this, you're not always looking for that much power. Sometimes you just need to be able to get an impact in there, and that's going to make the difference. One thing that goes very well with either of these tools is stubby sockets. And again, these sockets are from Astro. In my other tool haul video, I showed them off. And if you compare it, this is a 21mm, and let's go ahead and compare it to a standard 21mm, and hopefully you can see that size difference. So when you grab a stubby socket like this and pair it with this impact gun, now let's go ahead and grab that standard length 21mm and we'll put it on the Milwaukee gun. Guys, look at this size difference. That is massive, okay? There are places where you're not going to be able to fit this gun, and then this one is really going to shine. Absolutely massive difference. So this impact gun alone with a standard socket, yeah, really short, but if you get the stubby sockets, you can't beat this combination. There's nothing better. I'm happy with both of these guns. They just keep on kicking and they take the abuse. So let's move on to the next tools. Alright, so my next tool is a pretty large one, so let me just go ahead and knock this out. So excuse me while I whip this out. That's right, guys. Now don't be discouraged. Don't go ahead and click out of this video. I know it's a little big, but sometimes it's what you need. It's a big old girthy bore, okay? 42 inches long, 5/8 shank here. and this is the Mayhew Dominator. If I'm correct, this is the part number 14118, and this is one big bad boy, okay? It's when something doesn't want to budge, it's gonna budge, all right? There are definitely bigger ones than this bar, but to me, if something needs more than 42-inch pry bar, I probably don't want to be working on that. So, but right there on the handle, made in a good old USA. So, nice quality tool, and a few times I've had to use it, it's done its job, and it makes me proud every single time. It's my boy. Here's another air hammer tool. This one would go in your air hammer and use this end to remove like stubborn screws that hold on rotors, whether it's a Phillips or a Torx, whatever. You can see I have a Torx bit in here at the moment. Now this is from Eastwood, I believe, and it's actually a three-piece design. So you got the shank, you got the handle, and then this collar, all different pieces, and they expect you to thread it on. In my experience, like the first time I tried using it, all this stuff just rattles apart, and I won't be surprised if you lose anything. So it's why I grabbed my welder and I basically welded on the collar to the shaft, and then I welded on the handle to the collar. And ever since I welded it, this thing is not going anywhere, and it's been working fantastic. Works even better that it's welded together because there's no loose parts. But it works pretty damn good. I'm happy with this thing. And for stubborn on rotor screws, this is my go-to. It's the main tool I pull out every single time, so it works pretty good. Alright, so getting back to some smaller tools, here I have a oil filter wrench, and this one's pretty much almost like universal because it expands to different sizes, as you can see. And there it goes up close right there. As you can see, it's got like teeth on one end to bite into the filter. Of course, this is for removing filters, not installing them. So this one is made by Autobody now, and the part number on it is ABN5895. All right, so hopefully you guys can see that. And there's a few different companies that make them. It's probably made all in one place, and people just put their stamps on it. I don't know their names. I've seen these online for quite some time, and I was always skeptical of them. I'm like, nah, it doesn't look like it's gonna work, right? So anyway, I just decided to bite the bullet and buy it, and boy was I wrong. Ever since I got this tool, I've been using it for oil changes, and now it's my go-to. It's the only thing I use. There's been rare occasions where I have to pull out my oil filter pliers or my oil filter sockets. Like 95% of the time, this tool gets it done, and it's a real time saver because I don't have to go looking for a specific socket to fit that oil filter. This thing just works, and it's absolutely fantastic. I see no signs of it breaking or wearing out or anything, and I can't be happier with it. Though obviously it's not going to work for the really large oil filters, but they might make a variant of this one that is made for larger filters. If you're skeptical about it like I was, just give it a try, guys, because I think it's worth it. Alright, so next up we have some plug weld pliers. This is made by CTA, so I think the part number is CTA8880. I don't know if the CTA is part of the part number, but it looks like it. Anyway, they are plug weld pliers, and they pretty much have one job, and they are there to help you with plug welds. So these are really specific to if you're doing body work or welding. That's pretty much where they come into play. You can see they have a opening right here, and then they have a copper backing plate to help you with those plug welds. And some of you may have noticed this tool in my CRX videos, and honestly it works just fine. No issues with it at all. It feels like a decent quality. I've bought some CTA tools before and I haven't had any issues with them. It's not like when you go to like Menards, and we all know that Master Force brand. I mean, like say the vice grips from Master Force, they just feel so cheap and flimsy, like they're falling apart. And yeah, this does not feel like that, okay? These feel halfway decent. Definitely worth the buy if you're doing body work or plug welds or things like that. Alright guys, so that's just about it for this tool haul. Now I have more tools to show you guys, but after I put all of the video together, it turned out to be like over 50 minutes and nobody's gonna watch that. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and separate the video into two parts. So after you watch this one, you should see the second video out very soon. And like always, thanks for watching.